All right, y'all. I want to read this story. A story about the root chakra. For those who haven't heard of a chakra, it's energy stations in your body that if you're in the shadow side of this chakra, your life might not be so pleasant to you. And if you're in the light side of it, you may be what people will call successful, living the good life. But, you know, it's harmony. So when these chakras are operated from a light side or positive side, it's said that this chakra is either unblocked or open. And of course, if you're in the shadow side, it would be closed or blocked. So, give me 1 second. All right. Imagine for a moment a mighty tree. Its branches reach toward the heavens, its leaves dance in the wind. But none of this would be possible without what we can't see, the roots. Deep beneath the soil, an intricate network anchors the tree, draws nourishment from the earth, and provides stability that allows everything else to flourish. Your root chakra is exactly like these roots, invisible yet essential, grounding yet powerful, silent yet speaking to every aspect of your life. So, roughly over the next 20 minutes, we'll journey together through the landscape of the root chakra. We'll discover what it truly means to explore these signs of imbalance, understand what causes blockages, and most importantly, learn practical ways to heal, strengthen this vital energy center. Whether you're new to chakra work or deepening your existing practice, this journey will provide you with the tools to build an unshakable foundation for your life. You ready? Let's go. What is the root chakra? The root chakra sits at the base of your spine and at the very foundation of your chakra system. So it starts with the chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus, heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye, and crown. And it's said that you can't get to the next one until you have opened or unblocked the current. So, okay, the root chakra is associated with the color red, vibrant, vital, and alive. The root chakra connects you to the elements of the earth. Think about what earth represents: solidity, stability, nourishment, home. These are the qualities of a balanced root chakra. This energy center governs our most fundamental needs as humans. As humans, it's the seat of our survival, right? Our sense of safety and security, our connection to our physical body, and our feelings, excuse me, and our feeling of being grounded in reality. When someone says they feel grounded or rooted, they're describing a balanced root chakra. You know, someone say, center yourself, right? You heard people say that, right? So they're describing a balanced root chakra without even knowing it, because who knows about chakras? The domains of the root chakra influences several keys of our life. Not only keys, but key areas as well. Physical survival. This includes our basic needs: foods, water, shelter, and safety. Is the primal part of us that ensures we can investigate and navigate the physical world, right? You have eyes, you have senses, right? You have a physical body that inhabits these senses. So get on out there, explore, learn some shit, and let the world be your classroom. Financial security is another area. Our relationship with money, our ability to provide for ourselves, and the sense of material stability all reside right here, right? Financial security, though money is not important, it has its place in the world, especially right now in today's time. Another key area for this root chakra influence, your family and or tribe. Now, when I say family, I don't necessarily mean the people you're related to, right? But that's family. No, that makes you relatives, right? Blood makes you relatives, not family. Because I'm sure somewhere somebody out there has some friends that they are closer with and or have a stronger bond with than some of their family members. So, yeah. So, our connection to our family of origin, our sense of belonging to a community, and our tribal identity. Now, people place labels and titles on others all the time because of an impact that they have in their life. So be good, so be bad. The physical body is another area. The root chakra it governs our legs, our feet, our bones, the large intestines, and the adrenal glands. It's literally about what supports us and what we stand for, what we stand on. Do we stand on business? How many of y'all out there stand on business? Raise your hand. If you do, great. If you don't, start getting in the habit and doing so. Recognizing the signs. So, hey, here's everyone meet Sarah. Sarah came to yoga class years ago. She was successful by all external measures. Good job, nice apartment, seemingly put together, right? But she couldn't do a tree pose, right? And the tree pose is pretty, it takes for a lot of balance. She literally couldn't balance on one foot for more than a second. She was also constantly worried about money, despite having plenty, right? But Sarah was this person who, in the money area, though she had a lot, it still wasn't enough. She felt disconnected from her family and hoarded food in her apartment for just in case. Right? So Sarah's story illustrates what a imbalanced root chakra looks like. And it's not always obvious, it manifests differently in different people. An ungrounded or underactive or partially blocked root chakra. When your root chakra is underactive or blocked, you might experience chronic fatigue. These are physical symptoms. Chronic fatigue, lower back pain, issues with the legs and feet, problems with elimination, taking a poop, immune system weakness, or difficulty maintaining a healthy weight. Whether if a person is, according to the doctors, anorexic or obese. And I'm using extremes. Of course, there's a window. Emotional symptoms, persistent anxiety, especially about survival or safety, fear of abandonment, difficulty making decisions, spaciness, or feeling floaty. The inability to focus, or I'm I suffer from this um, scattered focus, restlessness, daydreaming, or escapism, some type of escape, or um, daydreaming excessively. Let's put it that way. Now, once we, work on the shadow side of ourselves, just naturally things will start to align. Another symptom or area, if you're dealing with imbalance or a blocked chakra, is behavior patterns. Trouble with your significant other, troubles with finances, you know, regardless of income, difficulty completing tasks, resistant to routine or structure, right? People have a hard time getting into routine. People have a hard time following schedule. People have a hard time, you know, getting structured or getting into structure or just creating structure altogether. You know, some of my behavioral patterns is following a schedule, but I'm working on that. I'm working on that. Hence is why we're here right now. You might have problems with commitment. You know, I think I used to have an issue with commitment. You know, frequently moving or changing jobs. You know, as the older generation say, you know, not let the grass grow under your feet. Um, Hoarding or the opposite of hoarding, you know, giving shit away like excessively, you know, so which is, you know, extreme minimalism, you know, from the fear of attachment, right? Because let's be honest, some people have separation anxiety, right? And so, like, we have an underactive or an underemphasized or imbalanced chakra. We can have an overactive chakra. This would still be an imbalance. You know, it's like the underactive is the negative extreme, right? An overactive would be a positive extreme. Heaviness in the body. And this is conversely an overactive root chakra. You know, it creates different challenges. Um, Weight gain, particularly in the lower body, right? Not to body shame, but you ever seen people with a slim top or a smaller top than their lower half? That would be an expression of an overactive root chakra. Of course, with, you know, the root of why it was imbalanced to begin with. Sluggishness, constipation, stiffness in joints, particularly in the lower body. Emotional symptoms, excessive worry about security, right? Gotta have more. Let's go back to Sarah. She had a lot of money, but right? It wasn't enough for her. What up, what up, what up? Um, Greed, right? Gotta have more. Hoarding. I gotta have it all and I ain't coming off of it. And if I can help it, you ain't having none, right? It's, you know, we can become materialistic, right? Resistance to change. Now, I know a lot of people out there that won't change because they don't see that how the change will benefit them. And when they don't see how the change will benefit them, they won't change, right? Another emotional way that it shows up is paranoia, right? And aggression whenever this person feels threatened. And so some behavioral patterns, inflexibility, the need for excessive control, right? This could this could be that man in the relationship who lady has to ask him when it's time to go to sleep, what to eat, and can she do this? Can she do that? Or helicopter parents, right? Um, the inability to let go, not just any let go, but to let go of people. Like I said earlier, remember me saying a few minutes ago, people have separation anxiety? Yeah. Um, they're afraid to let go of people, possessions, or situations. No, I ain't letting it go. People who hold on to grudges, or resistance to spiritual practice, or airy concepts. Not and this is not to say that people who, you know, don't follow any type of spiritual practice or the concept of it. This is not to say that this person has an imbalance. Let me be clear on that part. You know, obsessions with rules and order or bullying or, an individual who has to flex their dominance, right? Now, we got to understand we have to understand where does an imbalance root chakra comes from. And understanding the cause of imbalance is very important when we're talking about healing, right? Because the root chakra issue is typically developed through, you know, during through our early years, childhood, during that part of our life, because this is where we start to lay the building blocks, for our adult years, right? So it's very important that we have a stable childhood in order to have a stable and strong adulthood, or we will bleed on everyone we come in contact with because of undealt with, unhealed from trauma. And so, and that's usually, like they say, the alpha years, right? Um, from birth to about 7, the most impressionable and important years of a person's life, right? So this is when, excuse me, we're forming our fundamental understanding of whether the world is safe or not. And if we grew up in an environment where it wasn't safe, well, guess what? How your adult life is going to express itself, right? So the now, though it's natural for humans, right, being born, the birthing process is, we can say that is the, I want to be careful. I want to use the word trauma, but not as in trauma that you have to heal from. That was a very stressful time for that individual, right? Souls coming into the body, right? The body is coming out of another body, right? Mom is under a lot of stress. Baby's body is in a lot of stress, and soul is pretty much hooking up its senses. And that's a very tiring process for all three individuals. All three individuals. And so a difficult birth, you know, separation from mother, or lack of physical touch, all of these is how this birthing trauma would show up as a shadow, right? Birth difficulties, right? Babies have to go through skin to skin, right? Is when, you know, our body is used as the heat lamp. Not only that, baby is smelling your scent. It's a lot of things that's going on. But when the baby lacks those things, that sends a message that, hey man, the world is not safe. And that's wild. Um, moving through birth, right? Inconsistent caregiving. You know, sometimes our needs were met, sometimes they weren't. You know, this creates uncertainty because there's no balance, right? It causes confusion. You know, and the child learns that they can't rely on stability because you can't have a rocky up and down on instability. You can't rely on stability if it's rocky, right? So physical emotion or sexual abuse directly shatters the sense of safety, right? It just boom. And safety is one of the key components in our chakra system, right? Because it starts out in that foundation, which is the root chakra. And if that isn't stable, if that isn't balanced, if that isn't providing a sense of safety for said individual, then shit ain't gonna be right. And so, neglect, even if it's intentional or unintentional, it doesn't matter. Neglect is neglect. This teaches the nervous system that survival is uncertain, right? Because I can't depend on anything because my needs aren't being met, right? I'm being neglected. I'm not getting the proper nourishments that I need. And so, those were like early childhood experiences. Those from birth to year 7. Now, significant life events can have an effect on one's root system, your root chakra, right? Such as major loss, you know, especially in those years, especially in those years, the death of a parent, right? The divorce of parents, you know, or or where something happened in the home where you had to be removed from the home. Your home was not a fit place according to DCF. So, you know, financially, financial instability in the family creates persistent anxiety about material security, right? Think about think about that couple who dad was the only one working, right? And the company shut down, laid everybody off. 139 people been laid off, right? You got a whole chain of individuals in this business. And so mom starts to put more and more and more pressure on dad about the finances, right? Because her chakra system, her financial area is being worried about all within her psyche, right? Her root chakra has an imbalance because instead of speaking life into him at that moment, what she's doing, she's putting pressure on him, added pressure, more pressure because he's already thinking of how he's going to, get his income back flowing, right? And so then he has to hear her, and though she is not wrong in what she's saying, her approach is uncomfortable. And so now he's in a tug of war. So, we might go to war, right? Natural disaster where, you might have to change locations. I know I know a few people who had to evacuate from New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, right? Or a person might be in a dangerous living situation or a living environment, right? And so when we are living in those dangerous environments, that keeps the survival response constantly activated. And so those survival, one would say, can be looked at as a good thing. Survival, being in that mindset constantly, is a bad thing because you're in a state of worry, right? When you're operating from a place of survival, you're worrying versus thriving. When you're thriving, that's when you're really living. Now, thriving doesn't necessarily mean material things because it's how we see things, how we view things, how we perceive things is which will trigger a certain emotion, and then the body associates that feeling with emotion. Um, Another life event that could have shaken it up, illness, especially chronic childhood illness such as seizures. My oldest child used to suffer from seizures all the time. The first time I witnessed him having a seizure, it really wasn't that bad on my from my experience of it. But what scared me the most one time is in the car on the way to the house. Oh my goodness, so scared. And so when we go through those illnesses like that to where the body starts to feel the trauma, suffering, discomfort, dis-ease, or whatever, that can disconnect. Now, get this, that can cause us to not trust our bodies, right? So it also can, cultural trauma or generational trauma. This is when things is passed down through generations through the DNA, right? We call this transgenerational epigenetics, right? Depending on what angle you're coming from, we can also say PTSD with changing out whatever that S is. And so, you know, if you understand that trauma, data, traits, characteristics can be passed down through the DNA, then we must also understand that our ancestors, right, experienced the same thing. So be good, so be bad. And if our ancestors experienced displacement, poverty, persecution, survival threats, we can very well, very much so carry that same energy, carry that same energy through our system. And so, and that's done through, message, messages about scarcity, you know, unworthiness, or danger, right? All of those can be factors of an imbalanced root chakra. And so, that's generational. They could we could also call this generational curses. How many times you heard somebody say, you know, my generational curse, I'm breaking this generational curse, or something mentioning about a generational curse, right? So if that can be generational, right, and so which means in the past, well, there just have to be some modern life stressors as well, right? Let's get into what they are, right? And so in our contemporary world, right, we have constant stress, overwork, lack of connection to nature, which is just, I know it's getting better, but it looks like it's getting worse, right? And the breakdown of community and family structures, all that contributes to your root chakra depletion. And so what we got to do, we have to work on creating safety in the body, in our body, in your body, in my body. And so healing the root chakra begins with one fundamental truth. You cannot heal what you cannot feel safe enough to address. I'm going to say it again. You cannot heal what you cannot feel safe enough to address. So, first step is always, always creating safety when it comes to repairing, rebuilding, creating structure within this system of the root chakra. And so we have to get some grounding practices in. Some grounding practices. Wait, did he say practice? Yeah, he said practice. The most immediate way to activate and balance your root chakra, well, since it's the root is where? In the ground. So what do we have to do? We have to ground. Well, how do you ground? We ground through walking on grass or dirt, not concrete or asphalt, barefoot. We walk barefoot. It's earthing is what a lot of people call it. But what's the difference? So this allows you to physically connect with the Earth's electromagnetic field. You give off positive, I mean, you give off the negative electrons. I think it's electrons. Yeah. And while you're giving off the negative, you're receiving the positive protons. Right? And so, and so, how long? A minimum of 15 to 20 minutes. At minimum. At maximum, an hour. And so when you're doing this, it's in our best interest to stay present. You know, pay attention to how your body reacts to the grass under your feet, the sand in between your toes, right? Feel the texture of those beneath your feet. Notice how the earth supports you with every step, right? And this leads us into body awareness. It's a little exercise. Close your eyes and scan your body from head to toe. Where do you feel tension? Where do you feel numb? Noticing without judgment begins the healing process. The root chakra governs our connection to our physical form, so being in your body is essential to growth and healing. Conscious breathing, right? Pay attention to your breaths. We can do some breathing exercises, right? 4-4-4. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4 seconds. And so this is allowing your body, allowing your breath to travel all the way to your pelvic floor. Do what it needs to do down there so you can expand your system. So imagine with each exhale that you're growing roots from the base of your spine deep into earth. With each inhale, you draw nourishment from the earth, right? Move some of that energy around. Exercise, dance, stomp your feet, right? Feel your weight. Even if you're unhappy with your weight, feel it, right? Do the little, do some little line dance. Get your little two-step going on, right? If you're if you're attracted to those tribal dances, learn one of those, right? Yoga poses, a mountain pose, warrior pose, child pose, and a yogic squat. Any standing pose strengthens the legs that connects you to the ground, right? So, so, and if you are attracted to those tribal dances, well, that connects you to your ancestors, right? Because you are practicing something in a way that your people came before you practiced. Hold on. All right, I'm back. Um, gardening. Gardening is very helpful, because you're literally putting your hands in the soil. You're actually in a part of the bringing forth life, right? Create a garden. Now, earlier I mentioned routine and structure. And one of the most profound, one of the most powerful healers of the root chakra is establishing a reliable routine. It has to be reliable. It can't just be when you get around to it or it sways in the wind, right? Now, this might sound not so exciting or not so mystical, But when your root chakra is imbalanced, life feels chaotic and unpredictable. And when life feels chaotic and unpredictable, we usually say things like, I'm suffering, or I need this. And to say that I need this implies lack. So creating structure, it sends a message to your nervous system. We are safe. We can't predict what comes next. We are in control of our own environment. But we got to start small, right? Set an alarm. If you just let your body wake you up, right? I get that we're on a routine, right? But a routine doesn't necessarily mean schedule, like same time. We can do the same thing every day, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be at the same time, right? TMI, just a hit, trigger warning, TMI. TMI warning. Anyway, so every day I get up, and I poop. Every day when I get up, I poop. It's not always the same time, but it is within a window, within a window. So, and if you can, try to get up, try to set your circadian rhythm to get up at the same time every day, because when we use alarm clocks, that sends a sense of being startled to your nervous system, right? To be waking up suddenly, not waking up or arising naturally. Create a morning ritual. Create a rising ritual. Maybe it's making your bed, brewing some tea, mindfully brewing tea, or just 5 minutes of stretching, right? Or before you get out of bed, stay in bed before you deal with the outside world. Spend those first moments when you first return to this realm from your overnight slumber to meditate. Establish regular meals, right? Create wind down times. This is the journey throughout the day. And go to sleep, go to bed consistent, at a consistent time. You know, it may seem mundane or, hold on. All right, I'm back. And thanks for your patience. It may seem petty, it may seem like a lot to do, it may even seem tedious, but to a dysregulated root chakra, routine is the medicine. It just is. It's proof that you can create stability in your life. That should tell you that you don't need an outside source for validation. That should tell you that you can do anything you set your mind to. Bring you behind my curtain. So I'm in the process of quitting smoking, right? I tried the cold turkey and it didn't work. Stress levels were through the roof. So I put myself on a 2 blunt a day regimen for a week, for strong, for 7 sons, right? And it worked out. And so now I'm on a 1 blunt a day regimen. Today is day one. And so the routine and the 2 blunts a day wasn't bad. And neither was this 1 blunt. And so, we need nourishments, and the chakra systems need nourishments. And the root chakra is intimately connected to how we nourish ourselves. Healing often involves examining our relationships with food. I know a couple emotional eaters. That's how they deal with that stress on that type of level. You know? So when it comes to foods that nourish the root chakras, well, we can do the color coded thing. We can say all red fruit, all red foods. And since it's the root chakra, we can go as far as say roots, right? Cabbage, potatoes, carrots, beets, turnips, you know, you know, foods that grow in the earth carries earthing, earth's grounding energy. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Of course you did. Now, when I say this next food or substance, I don't want you to think the popular opinion. Protein. Your root chakra needs protein, but not protein in the way you think. Though this isn't a class for that, I'll say a little bit of it. Protein from meat is not what the body needs. And I'll just leave that there. So when it comes to protein, especially for those with underactive root chakras, adequate protein helps you feel grounded and substantial, right? Mindful eating. We have to mindfully eat. A lot of people eat on the rush, right? So they're not savoring the taste. They're not, you know, chewing our food all the way. We chew maybe 10 times and swallow. Chew, 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 swallow. Right? This whole system that we are attached to, this society, has taught us how to live in a damaging way. Right? So sit down when you eat. Chew slowly. Fully chew your food. Taste your food. And then thank the earth for providing the food. Now you're showing gratitude. Wait, hold on. Gratitude. Yeah, gratitude. Gratitude is the gateway in which it's my opinion, gratitude is the gateway, is the bridge from survival to thriving. Because when you're in survival mode, you're on the mindset from a place of lack. When you're thriving, you're operating from a mindset from a place of gratefulness of whatever it is that you have. And so physical nourishment and gratitude is pretty much the domain, right? And so, you know, physical things is, we went over some physical things to do, right? Now we can get to the spiritual side, things that you say, right? Affirmations, a lot of people call it. And these affirmations, along with putting in the action, will reprogram. Right? And so, the stories we tell ourselves create our reality, regardless if you believe it or not. And if you don't believe it, just think about it. The times that you said you wish you had something and you put so much energy on you saying you wish you had it, you never got it. But it wasn't until you start putting in some actions along with what you were saying that you wanted, right? Universe, reflected that thing back to you, and it responded in the way you responded to your environment, your situation, right? So instead of saying I'm not safe, you can say I am safe, supported, and grounded in this moment. I am safe, supported, and grounded in this moment. Replace I don't have enough with, yeah, that's right. The universe provides for my needs and I am secure. Now, if y'all was present last live, we got into how the universe don't have your back and the universe don't provide, but the universe does provide. It provides with whatever you're emitting. If you're giving off negative energy, you're gonna struggle. If you're giving off positive energy, you're gonna prosper. Replace I don't belong with I have a right to be here. This is also us taking our power back. Replace I can't trust with I trust myself. Because if you can't trust others, well, it had to start with you not trusting yourself, right? Trust the process. Speak these daily, out loud, right on your bathroom mirror, right on every mirror that you look in on a daily basis. Now we got to heal these wounds. And sometimes root chakras require going deeper into the wounds than we would like to. Now, this is where outside help can benefit. Therapy, right? You can do a transgression. Doesn't have to necessarily be a past life transgression, right? Mirror work, shadow work, right? Um, Inner child work. A lot of us locked away our child since we've been an adult because this thing that's called responsibility. And so many root chakra wounds, like I mentioned earlier, comes from our childhood. So visualize yourself at whatever age when you first felt unsafe. What did that child need? Can you, as your adult self, provide it now? Hold that child, right? Tell them that they're safe, because that's why we put up a wall around it, right? And walls serves two purposes: to keep things in and to keep things out, right? Now, we did an exercise a while back to where we rewired our neurological pathways, our neural pathways. And we do this through imagination, but it's actually being done because imagination is where? In the mind. And existence is what? Mental, created by the mind. So even if it's imaginary, in some timeline in your existing parallel universes or realms, you created whatever silly idea you had, whatever goofy thought you had, it manifested somewhere else. Um, we have to create boundaries. No, the root chakra also governs our sense of sovereignty, knowing where we will end and or begin. Learning to say no. A lot of people don't know how to say no. Hell, for that case, a lot of people don't know how to say yes either. But we don't, for whatever reason. So learn to say no to protect your energy, to claim your space is more medicine for the root chakra, right? Got to connect to your lineage and to the community. Remember, the root chakra includes our connection to tribe and family. Healing might involve researching your ancestry and feeling connected to those who came before. However that looks to you, right? Create your own family. Let people in your space, hey Spicy, let people in your space who supplements and support your growth, right? Engage in community service or group activities, right? Participate in traditional rituals that connect you to something larger, right? You know somebody that's creating something for the greater good, give them a hand, right? You can also heal family patterns through your own transformation, right? And what that is pretty much leading by example. You know, be the change you want to see type deal, right? Use nature as your healer, right? We evolved in an intimate connection with nature, right? Modern life has separated us from this, right? Um, I had a conversation with somebody the other day on connecting with nature and some things we do today, some practices that we practice today disconnects us from nature. So, get in nature, connect with nature, right? But, that saying that is kind of ridiculous because you are nature. So you just have to remember that. Remembering you are nature, it kind of reconnects you to nature's pattern, nature's flow. Because right now we're operating off man's pattern, man's flow, right? So sit with your back against the tree. I tell a lot of people this, right? Preferably if you can get bare back to root without catching charges. If you're gonna catch a charge putting your bare back on the root, don't just keep your shirt on, right? Now, while your back is on this tree, feel the roots beneath you mirroring your own energetic roots. Go walk, go stroll through a nature path. You know, there's a practice in Jap in in the Japanese culture is called forest walking, and pretty much what it is just taking a forest bath, taking a nature bath. And it may seem crazy, but I guarantee you it has some physiological benefits. Um, Watch the sunrise and watch the sunset, right? It's reliable, it's cyclical, it's predictable, and it may not be on a time for time routine, but it damn sure comes up and go down every day. While you're sitting on that tree stump, or with your back to the tree, close your eyes and just listen to nature. Listen to the animals communicate. Listen to how the wind rustles through the leaves, through the grass. Listen how the leaves roll across the floor. Right? This regulates the nervous system. See, all of these things, it may sound like it doesn't have any benefits, but it works on an internal level, on an eternal level, right? You can do color therapy, you can do sound therapy, right? I got a pair of red glasses when I'm feeling out of my root chakra energy. I put them on, get some color therapy going on. You can also wear red, right? You can visualize a red light at the bottom of your spine, glowing, pulsing, or for that day, create a red feng shui, a red ambiance, you know, chant Lam. And as you're chanting Lam, I want you to feel in the base of your spine vibration as you're Lam. Now, in order to feel this, you're going to have to concentrate. You're going to have to move that vibration there. And you can move that vibration there. Visualize it. That's all. Visualize it. Now, you can also work with earth elements. Do pottery, some clay work. Build things with your hand, right? Because not only is the root chakra, the foundation, it's also the practical side of our life, the actual doing, the physical type doing shit, right? Physical creation connects us with earth energy, right? Because everything on this, the things that come from this planet feeds off this planet, energetically speaking and physically speaking. You haven't eaten anything that came from Mars, have you? I don't know. Spicy, I think they all sleep. Um, so healing the root chakra isn't a destination. It's a it's a journey. It's an ongoing practice. It's a relationship that you're cultivating with yourself and with life itself. There will be times when you feel deeply rooted, unshakable, secure. There will be other times where it seems like you're being triggered every day, all day. You know, you might come across something that trigger an old event, or you smell something, or hear something that gives you that feeling of familiarity and instability. That's normal. It's fine. Don't get discouraged. Keep going. This is because you have a human body, right? Healing is not linear. It doesn't work on a schedule, right? What matters is that you now have the tools. You understand what you're feeling and why. Hopefully, you understand what you're feeling and why. Right? You know how to return to your foundation, right? Remember Sarah earlier on, after 6 months of constant, consistent root chakra work, yoga, therapy, establishing routine, spending time in nature. She could not only hold a tree pose, but she reported feeling like I finally live in my body instead of watching it from somewhere. So not only could she do the pose, she also regained her power. Her financial anxiety went away. The enough money she had, well, she finally see that she has enough. She's now showing gratitude for the things she has, right? She reconnected with her sister and the hoarding stopped. So your practice moving forward, I invite you to choose one practice from today's journey. Not 10, not 11, not two, one, just one. Maybe it's earthing. Maybe it's getting up or going to sleep on a routine. Or remember those affirmations I told you to write on your bathroom mirror? Saying those while you brush your teeth. Just choose one, right? Now, 40 days. I know that's a lot. And it only takes 21 days to create a habit. Another 21, in this case 19. Another 19 to lock it in. So y'all remember that journey of 40 days and 40 nights Moses went on? What if that was actually Moses creating a routine, a habit for the first half of the journey, and then the second half of the journey was locking it in? Just something to think about. So notice what shifts after those 40 days or during those 40 days, right? Your root chakra is your birthright. You deserve to feel safe in your body, secure in your life, and connected to the earth because that is what we are supposed to be doing in the first place. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be in that energy anyway, right? The work begins now. But the foundation you build will support everything else you create in the life, in your life. It starts now. So I appreciate y'all for taking this journey with me tonight. May your roots grow deep. May your foundation be strong. And may you always remember you are a star, so shine like one.